Welcome, everyone. First thing I'd like to do, if possible, is quick introductions. We're way too many people to do very long, so let's just do like a sort of 10-second introduction. Becky, do you suppose you could coordinate that by calling people by name?
Yes.
And then I'll start though, and I'll go a little bit longer because I'm presenting, so I'll do more than 10 seconds. But hi, I'm Ivan. I'm the humanitarian advisor with HOT. I also do a lot of technical stuff. And I'm one of the people within HOT who does a lot of the stuff with drones. We're currently doing a big job with drones in Kenya, and we have some potential, work that some of you could potentially get involved in. We'll talk more about that in a few minutes, but I'm really glad that people seem to be interested in this. And what we're going to talk about is kind of the end-to-end workflow for drones, but particularly the processing, which is data quality interns. Well, guess what? Processing is all about creating quality aerial imagery data. So it's data quality. And yeah, if everybody could just give me, let's keep it really, really short so that we have time for the material of the presentation. But just tell me who you are, and if you've worked with drones, and if you know something about aerial imagery, tell me. And that's it. Okay, Becky, I'll leave it to you to coordinate very snappy introduction.
Over to you, Angela. If you have anything you know about drones and maybe where you're coming from, would be nice.
Hello, everybody. My name is Angela Mtukonaluonde. I'm from Zambia, and I haven't done anything with drones yet. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Angela, for turning on your video. And Anil, it's okay to turn off your video if your bundles don't accept. Anil?
Hello everyone. I'm Anil. I'm from Nepal, and I have a little experience working with drones and drone imageries. I have worked on taking drone imageries and processing them, doing rectification, and I have also digitized in OpenStreetMap using drone imageries, hosting them on GitHub. That's it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Anil. Daniel, over to you.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Daniel from Ghana. I have worked on a team that was looking at illegal mining in Ghana that used drone in our data gathering and analysis. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Divya over Anissa. Anissa, are you about to speak?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Anissa Lakal. I'm from Nepal. I have not worked with a drone. I have not experienced with it yet.
Awesome. Thank you, Anissa. Divya, over to you.
Hi, I'm Divya. I'm from Sri Lanka. So I don't have experience in the drone, but I worked in the LiDAR images. Thank you.
Awesome. Over to Benedicta. Would you like to say something?
Okay, please. What's the question?
So we are having a drone software training, and Ivan would like to know if you've done any drone, if you've used drone before, or you've done any mapping with drone, and where you're coming from.
Okay, so yeah, my name is Benedicta. Yeah, I've used drone in agriculture mapping before. Yeah. Thank you. And I'm coming from Ghana.
Awesome. Thank you, Benedicta. Iray, are you able to speak?
Hello, I am Eray. I live in Istanbul. I'm a little bit experienced about the drone. I fly the DJI Mini 3, but I didn't use OpenDroneMap. It's okay for me, this training. I wonder it.
Awesome. Thank you, Iray. Over to Frank. Frank, are you able to speak? If you're having any challenges with unmuting yourself, please just enter in your details in the chat. Over to Gorak. Hi, Gorak, are you there?
Hello, myself, Goraknath Pandey, and I'm just new to these activities right now, so I don't have anything more to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Gorak. Jafet.
Hi everyone, my name is Jafet from DRC. I haven't experience with drone.
Awesome. Thank you, Jafet. Jacqueline, are you able to speak?
Yes, hello. I'm Jacqueline. I'm from Brazil. Never working with drone.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Over to Jenny.
Hi, I'm Jennifer. I'm from South Africa. I've worked with drone imagery before, but I've always wanted to fly a drone, but never had the opportunity. And excited to learn more. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Jenny. Over to Karen.
Hi everyone. My name is Karen. I'm from Kenya. I've never worked with drone, but I'm looking forward to learning.
Awesome. Thank you, Karen. Over to Kingsley.
Hi everyone. I'm Kingsley from Nigeria. I have experience in drone. I've used it for a couple of projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Kingsley. Coco, are you able to speak?
Hello, I'm Koku from Togo. I haven't worked with drones, but I have already worked with OpenDroneMap.
Awesome. Thank you. Mark, over to you. Mark, if you're unable to speak, it's okay to just type in the chat. Oh, awesome.
Hi everyone, I'm Jerome from the Philippines. I have never experienced working with drones, but I'm also looking forward to. This session. Thank you.
Okay. I think I lost just a minute. Over to Odulana.
Hi everyone, I'm Oluwatoyin Odulana from Nigeria. Yes, I've had experience learning about drones through the Shipwise community here in Nigeria, having both theoretical and basic hands-on practical as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Odulana. Over to Priya.
Hi everyone, I'm Pragyapan from Nepal. I'm a geomatics engineer, so I've studied photogrammetry as well as I have used drone and its imagery for during my academic project works.
Awesome, awesome. Ralph, would you like to say something? It's okay if.
Yes, hi. Hello, Ivan. Right, my name's Ralph Ayton. I'm a community engagement associate with HOT.
Oh, I know who you are, Ralph.
Of
It's great
course
to
you
see
do.
you.
And I think everybody else here knows me as well. No, I have not done any work with drones, but I am familiar with the imagery thereafter. Look forward to your talk, Ivan.
Thank you, Ralph. Over to Rizky.
Hi everyone, I'm Rizky from Indonesia. I've never used drone before, but lately I ever have training in OSM Indonesia, and I'm really excited for this session. Thank you.
Thank you, Sangeta. Over to you.
Hi everyone, it's me Sangita Bisi from Nepal. I have also
some little bit knowledge about drones since I have learned photogrammetry in my in my that bachelor's. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Shabani, over to you.
Hi, Becky. Yeah, my name is Shaban Magavila from Tanzania, and I'm youth member from here in Tanzania. For myself, I have a little experience in drone, but not to operate it. But I have a little experience in dealing with the imagery, maybe. But also for OpenDroneMap, I have the desktop application which I have installed in my laptop. So I use it to hear from my friend, and I tried to install in my laptop with the Docker desktop. So I have it. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Shabani. Derek, are you able to speak?
Yes, morning from Uganda. This is actually called Derek from Uganda. On drones, I don't have any experience there.
Awesome. Supath, are you able to speak? Okay, it's if you're unable to speak, please type in the chat when you get a chance to. Walter, over to you.
Good morning. My name is Walter from Kenya. I haven't used the drone. Yeah.
Awesome. I think I have experienced mapping using the drone imagery, and I also got a chance, I think in the middle this year, to fly drones. I had like about four flights. Yeah. Over to you, Ivan.
Okay, without further ado, let's talk about basically what we do with drone imagery around here. So I'm going to narrow in on the job that we're doing right now, but I'm going to start a bit generally, actually quite generally. So as those of you who've known me or have heard me speak before, I generally think that the whole humanitarian and development mapping thing is essentially 4 phases. Phase 1 is imagery. Throughout most of the history of the OpenStreetMap project, imagery has come from Bing, which actually upstream comes from the company Maxar. Now Maxar also shares this directly. But basically, for most of the history of our project, that first phase, imagery, has come from satellites, from satellite companies. Phase 2 is digitization. That's the thing that HOT is most famous for. Digitizing with JAWS and with ID editor. And I think, HOT's real main contribution in that whole world was the tasking manager. The tasking manager was, we didn't build the repository, OSM, we didn't build the tools JAWSM or ID, though we contributed to them. What we really built was the mechanism for large numbers of people to collaborate systematically and create high quality data. So as data quality insurance, that that should be clear to you that HOT's activity, particularly in priority countries, I'd say that London and Berlin were a bit more mapped by sort of really dedicated volunteers who didn't necessarily coordinate using something like the tasking manager. But most of Africa, South Asia, Southeast Asia, Latin America, most of the big mapping campaigns were done using something like the tasking manager. So it's coordination. So phase 2 then is digitization. Phase 3 is adding local information. Digitized roads, buildings, water courses, and so forth don't tell you what the names of things are. They don't tell you, you can trace a road, but you don't know what it's called. You can trace a house, but you don't know who lives in it. You can trace a building, but you don't know what shop is in it. You could trace a water course, but you don't know how much water is flowing through it. So all of that actual sort of, those attributes, the local knowledge, are phase 3. And phase 4 of humanitarian mapping is actually working together with operational people to change lives, to save lives, to improve lives. So again, you start with imagery, you digitize that imagery remotely using things like the Tasking Manager and JAWSM and ID Editor. You add local knowledge and attributes to those traced features using Open Data Kit or Vespucci or Everydor or Osmand or Organic Maps, whatever field mapping process you're using, or field papers. And finally, you work together with people to help them use it properly. Okay, so imagery, it turns out, is a pretty key part of this whole thing, and we have always depended on satellite imagery. What are the downsides of depending on satellite imagery? Anyone, please tell me. What are the downsides of us being completely dependent on satellite imagery? Jump in. Cloud cover and resolution, absolutely. Anything else? Feel free to just unmute yourself as well. Specific details aren't considered? Sure, yeah. What can you tell from satellite imagery? You can tell that there's a road there, you can tell there's a building there. Can you tell what construction the building is? Can you tell how tall it is? There's a lot that you can't see from satellite imagery. Okay, going to carry on then, and just mention that one other thing about satellite imagery is that we'll never be fully independent as long as we depend upon companies that own satellites to give us our imagery. As long as the oblique view is well done. Yes, thank you. Outdated information, sure. I don't know how many times we've seen that the imagery that we're actually tracing from is 5 years old in a particular place. Very good. So there's a ton of limitations with satellite data. It's old often, it's low resolution. I mean, it never can be better than about 30 centimeter resolution, which is good enough for many things, but we can do much better with other ways. And ultimately, what I'm saying is it's also outside of our control. The only maps that we have ever done as a humanitarian mapping movement that are completely independent, completely done by the community, are where we generated our own imagery or our own vectors with a GPS or whatever. So in that sense, the ethos of community mapping is only truly achieved when we're fully independent, when we don't depend on a satellite company to do it. Okay, so what do we do then to get our imagery? Here's a cheap drone. This is a bit more expensive than the ones that I usually like to use. My favorite is the Parrot Anafi, which is you can buy for $500 US. This one's a little bit more expensive, and I literally just bought this one in Peru because I couldn't find an Anafi. It's got a little camera. This is a consumer grade drone, essentially made for oh, not sharing. Whoops. Oh, I'm not sharing a presentation just yet. I will momentarily. Right now, you should be seeing my screen. You should be seeing like me and the drone that I'm holding up. Yeah. So okay. So what do we do with this? I mean, in Kakuma right now in northern Kenya, where we're doing a job, we're actually flying a fixed wing drone. Looks more like an airplane than this, but this is the kind of drone that I mostly use, and I prefer that we use, because these are things that the community can actually work with. These are of a level of cost and regulatory permission that our OpenStreetMap communities can often use. Now I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to show you a little bit what we wind up doing with that. Can somebody confirm that we can see my screen? Becky, are you seeing me here?
Yes, I can.
All right, good. Okay, so this is northern Kenya. This is a refugee camp. If I back out here, you can see we're not far from the border with South Sudan. This is an arid area. If I turn on the Google satellite, you can see that this is Sahelian. It's semi-desertic, and this is where we've been flying our drones. We've flown this entire refugee camp in this nearby town here. I haven't processed all the imagery yet. That's one of the reasons that I'm talking to all of you, because I would like some assistance with doing the imagery processing. And if we zoom in here, we can see the view that we get of this refugee camp. I'm going to zoom into the, the highest resolution that we get. You can see here that this is, we have a really clear view. If I put the Google satellite on instead, here's what that looks like. Can you see the difference here?
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah. So the satellite picture, for example, shows different things because this drone picture was taken last week. So we have a great deal more recent information. And of course, it's much more high resolution. You can see things like that's a latrine. You can literally see the shape of the hole in the latrine. So possibly there's a privacy issue here. You can't even see that thing in the satellite imagery. If we look up at at the corners here, we can see that here's the Google imagery, and we can see that actually the camp has grown. There are more homes here. These didn't exist when the satellite imagery was taken. We can see even that there's more being created here. There's footprints here for more construction that we can actually clearly see, which is absolutely not visible in the satellite imagery. Whether it was there or not, we don't know. You can't even see because of the resolution. Okay, so there's the kind of basic shape of if you want to understand who's living here in this refugee camp and what their homes look like, using a drone, you have enormously better resolution. You can actually digitize features like latrines. There's a latrine. You will not ever see that in a satellite image. There's just no way. It just doesn't have the resolution. Here I can see this water point. That's not visible in Google. There's no way. So the features that you can actually digitize are vastly richer with drone imagery. Technically, what's happening here is that the Google satellite imagery is or any satellite imagery is at best 30 centimeters per pixel. What we've got here with this drone is 7 centimeters per pixel. So it's 5 times higher resolution, and better color, no cloud, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what we the sort of initial thing that we get. Now, carrying right on from there, we also have what is called a digital elevation model from this. Let's go over here. So here I'm showing you the photos. Here's the photography, and now you can see those sort of roads and things. Now this here is actually an elevation model. I don't know how well you can see that. Let me actually there you can see with the buildings and the trees and so forth. And here is where we filter them out. Why do we filter them out? Because the buildings and the water doesn't run along the tops of trees. Water runs along water courses. So this actually, let me just recolor this. This actually shows the relative elevation. You can see where water would flow. You can see which side is higher. You can see which way water would flow. So if you're trying to plan a refugee camp, as the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, and you want to know where not to build, I'll tell you where not to build right here in the blue part, which is low. So digital elevation models are something that we get for free when we do good drone imagery. Now, I can actually go deeper in that. Quick pause. Can everybody hear and see me well? And are there any urgent questions?
I can see you well, and I can hear you well. No
Okay,
questions
good.
in the chat yet.
Okay, yeah, no, please keep an eye on the chat for me with in case people have urgent questions. And please don't be shy. I don't mind interruptions. If you don't understand something, or if you just have a question or comment, you can just unmute yourself, but certainly go in the chat. Okay, what we're looking at here is more drone imagery. This is Bali in Indonesia, the island of Bali. And this is an area where there is a problem with landslides. Now, here we're looking straight down from above, and this is drone imagery that I flew with my own drone, a Parrot Anafi, the one that I told you can be purchased for $500 US. So it's very much an accessible consumer grade drone. It's the kind of thing that we can provide to communities. So we're working with a community in Brazil that we actually gave 3 of these to for them to be able to do some flood mitigation analysis. Now, this doesn't, other than being much greener, this doesn't look much different from what I just showed you. But wait. Whoa. Can you see what I've just done there? I'm moving as slowly as I can so that you can see. Do you see what's happening here? Becky, can you confirm what we see? Or anybody on the call, please?
Yes.
Yes, you're
What are you seeing? Tell me what you see.
You're getting a definite 3D effect.
Yeah. I would push back in saying that's not actually a 3D effect. 3D. This is an image where we have flown the drone very carefully over this area, captured multiple photographs. And what we do after we fly a drone is something called photogrammetry. I'll get into that in a moment in more detail. But the critical thing to realize right now is that photogrammetry, when you're basically taking lots and lots of photos and stitching them together into one photo. Did anybody ever play with it when they were a kid with that thing called a stereograph? The thing that's like a pair of binoculars and you put pictures in it and you look in it and you can sort of see in 3D. Has anybody ever looked at one of those kids' toys?
Those were great fun.
Called a stereograph.
Yes, I've used it.
Yeah. Yeah, so now those things basically, they demonstrate that if you have 2 photographs of the same thing from a slightly different place, you can actually interpolate 3D information. That's actually how your eyes work. It's literally why we have 2 eyes. Well, we have 2 eyes also just in case one gets damaged, but we also have 2 eyes so that we have what's called depth perception, so we can see how far away things are. Well, stereo depth perception is when you have only 2 images of something, and you can tell by, if your eyes have to look really toward each other, something's closer, and if they're looking parallel to one another, something's further away. Well, when you have 1,000 images, like you might in the photogrammetry data set, every pixel has a relative position, and you can use that just like stereogrammetry. You can use that to calculate how far away from the camera things are. So in fact, in this data set, again, it's not a 3D effect. This is literally a 3D reconstruction of this very landslide-prone river valley in Bali, in eastern Bali. Now, something I would point out about this particular data set is that I flew this area twice. I flew my drone over this area twice. Once with the camera pointing straight down, and once with the camera pointing sideways at 45 degrees, which means I can see under the canopy of the trees. Do you notice here that I can actually see the shores of the river underneath the trees? You see that? Now that is something, somebody on the call mentioned that they had worked with LiDAR before. Now, proponents of LiDAR have said that the only way you can know where the ground really is underneath the trees is by having LiDAR, because it penetrates through the canopy. Well, it's not so. As a matter of fact, with really good photogrammetry, even with a $700 drone, you can see what's going on underneath the forest cover. This road, for example, here is not even visible in the satellite imagery because it's hidden from above. But with my drone, pointing the camera in multiple directions and flying multiple times, we can actually see features that are underneath the canopy. So this is a really critical piece of the puzzle. So all I really wanted to show you here was that once we fly a drone, we take a whole bunch of pictures. And after we take those pictures and feed them into a computer with some GPS points, we can reconstruct not only the image, but we can actually create a three-dimensional reconstruction. This, by the way, I'm not sure how well you can see it. I'll zoom in as best I can. This is that same one, and this is in the actual OpenDroneMap software, the software that I use to process this. And those blue things are the camera positions. So this drone, I flew it over multiple times over this area, and those little blue squares there are where the camera was. Can you see how they're like a little camera shaped thing? Those are the camera positions that correspond to where the drone was. And you can also see those angles. I remember I mentioned that sometimes the camera was facing straight down and sometimes it's facing at 45 degrees. Again, that is why we were able to reconstruct the ground underneath the trees, because we're seeing down at an angle and we can see under the canopy of the tree toward the base of the tree. Now, the other thing you might notice about this is that this is in kind of a grid. Can you see that? How the drone has actually flown in a kind of a grid pattern. If I flip over to my map here of northern Kenya and I go to these photo positions, I've actually created a kind of reconstruction of the photo positions. Can you see those arrows on my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is how the drone was flying in this flight plan. So when you're flying a drone for fun, you're usually just holding a controller in your hands and you're manually controlling the drone. When you're flying a drone to collect data for mapping, you use what's called a flight plan. You send the drone up and you instruct it to go along a specific track. And it does basically a grid. It goes, left, right, left, right, left, right. In some cases, when I'm looking for that 3D information, I send it first left, right, and then back forth. So north, south, and then east, west to get those extra angles, which helps me compute better 3D. So the whole workflow for collecting drone imagery is you begin with an area of interest. You create what's called a flight plan, and that usually actually can be done with a lot of consumer drones on a smartphone. I do the flight planning for my little drone on my mobile phone, and then that flight plan gets uploaded to the drone. So you choose parameters like, okay, I want to fly this area. It's a rectangle. I want the drone to do a double grid, for example. I want it to go north, south, and then east, west. I want the camera to be at this particular angle. I want to go. Oh, hello.
So I was asking, does the drone have a specific height which it has to be flown over?
Well, it depends. It depends what resolution I want. So if I'm flying with my drone, for example, if I fly at about 80 meters, then I'll get about a 2 centimeter resolution, which is really, really high resolution. So I probably don't need that. So generally what I'll do is I'll fly between 120 and 150 meters. And given the particular camera that I have in my drone, that gives me something like a 4 to 5 centimeter pixel, which is great. It's way, way smaller pixels, i.e. higher resolution than satellite imagery. But if I wanted to do a really, really fine orthophoto, I didn't mind covering only a small amount of area per flight. I might fly down at 50 meters. So I actually do have I have a data set. Maybe I can show you here. I think I can show you this one. I'm taking a risk here that I'll be able to actually see this properly, as I haven't tested this one lately. But this is a yes. Here it is. So here's an area again in Bali where I flew very, very low, and so this is a very, very high resolution data set where I believe I was flying at 50 meters, and so I've got something like a 2 centimeter pixel. I have one more. Okay, as long as I'm getting good luck with this and I'm able to show you good things, I'm going to pop over to another one. Flood modeling, yes, camera area, 3D model. Yeah, okay. Now look at this data set. This was flown at, I think, 30 meters. In fact, I had to stop this flight the first time I did it because I just about hit this tree. Now, here's something. If I zoom in on this area, can you see how much I can see under that bridge? Look at that. I can see the water all the way under the deck of that bridge. Why is that? Well, not only was I flying low, I was again flying with my camera at 45 degrees so I could see under things. So here I'm seeing both banks of this river very, very closely. I've got extremely high resolution, and I've got, underneath things like the trees. Look, I can see this tree here. I can see the trunks of the trees, which you absolutely can't see from above, but because I was shooting from the side. So to answer your question about elevation, most countries limit you to 150 meters maximum elevation. With special permissions, you can go more. There are cases where it makes sense to go up to like 400 meters, but you usually have to get permission from the aviation agency to do so. And I mean, you can go as low as you want as long as you don't hit a tree. And as I said, when I did this particular flight, this tree is not complete because I actually just about hit it, and I had to abort my flight and go back again and go higher and do another one. So that's why there's this hole in this data set, because I just about hit the tree. I was flying a bit too low. Does that answer your question?
Yes, but I have another question. Does this imagery, can it be used in tasking manager?
Absolutely. Yes, it can be used in tasking manager. So the normal way you would do this is you would, in OpenDroneMap, most deployments of OpenDroneMap have a button which says share to OAM, share to OpenAerialMap. And OpenAerialMap is something that's actually developed partly by HOT and maintained by HOT. And it's kind of like OpenStreetMap for aerial imagery. And if you process your drone imagery in OpenAerialMap, you share it, or in OpenDroneMap, you share it to OpenAerialMap. OpenAerialMap has a tile server. So you can, when you create a task in the tasking manager, you can specify imagery instead of specifying, Bing or Maxar. You can specify my own tile server, and then you give it the URL for the specific OpenAerialMap tile server for this. You can also just download it. You can download it as a GeoTIFF and use it as a background in QGIS, or you can, JASM will also allow you to use an image file as a background. So the short answer is yes, absolutely. You can, and we will, for this project in Kenya, put this into the tasking manager. What is the size of the orthophoto somebody's asking in the processing power? Well, okay, that depends. If you Latin American hot hub, here's the Ulysses was there, and he brought his own laptop, and we did some data collection with this orange drone that I just showed you, and it was only about 300 photographs, and Ulysses processed that on his laptop in 45 minutes. I did another data set where we used a drone called an EB. We collected 20,000 photos in the Lower Msimbazi Basin in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, and I processed it on a giant supercomputer, and it took 2 weeks. Well, not quite 2 weeks. It took like 10 days or something like that. So it really depends on the size of the data set. To a first approximation, if you're doing about 1,000 photos or so, which is about a day's worth of flying with a normal sort of quadcopter drone, maybe 2,000 photos you do with a quad drone, that would usually take something like 18-20 hours to process on a reasonably strong computer. The stronger your computer is, the faster it goes. A lot of people use OpenDroneMap on their laptop. I use it on my laptop sometimes, but I also happen to own 3 very powerful servers which sit in a friend's place in Cleveland, and that friend is actually a developer of OpenDroneMap, so they've got pretty good versions of ODM on them, and that's how that works. Answer your question?
Yes, but I also have another question. I'm sorry to ask so many questions.
Okay, bring it. One more, and then I'm going to jump to another subject, but go.
So if we are to shift from satellite imageries to drone imageries, isn't that too much more expensive when it comes to communities like which are less empowered in terms of financial assistance?
Well, I'll tell you what. Of course, it's more expensive to fly a drone than to use the free satellite imagery. There's no doubt about that. However, in a lot of the cities, there's more than just the OSM community that wants drone imagery. The World Bank, for example, is routinely contracts people to fly drones over major cities, and pays for those contractors to produce that drone imagery, and they usually then release it as open data. So a big part of what my plan is for the next year or so is to steal the work from those consultants. So normally in the World Bank, they want an image of all of Bamako or Ouagadougou or Kampala or Denpasar. And what they'll do is they'll put out a request for proposals, and the people that, and sometimes it's us, sometimes we actually do these drone contracts. We're doing them right now for the United Nations for refugees in Kenya. Sometimes it's other local companies, but most of the time it's international consultants who get the work, and they show up with their $25,000 Swiss-made drone, and they spend a week in the city, and they fly over the whole area, and they go home and process it, and they sell it to the World Bank, and they get $150,000 to $200,000. Now, my plan is, instead of one consultant from Europe with a $25,000 drone, is to have 15 local people with a $1,000 drone each. And so, I would like for us as a community, as an open mapping community, to become so good at flying small drones that we can actually take those contracts. Now, here's the thing. If you have somebody flying in from Switzerland who expects to make 600 euros a day, does it make sense for them to fly a little drone that can only do 1 square kilometer a day? Of course not. They're going to buy an expensive drone that can cover 10 square kilometers a day. But what if you've got a local community that could use some employment and would be delighted to make $40 a day? Yeah, I mean, there's youth in Tanzania or in Burkina Faso or in Bali or in Peru that would be delighted to make $40 in a day for flying a drone and producing 1 square kilometer of imagery. So in that case, it doesn't make sense to buy a $25,000 drone. It makes sense to buy 10 or 20 $1,000 drones, the same amount of money, but many, many more people actually working. And as a matter of fact, the quality of the outputs. This is what I've discovered. This is, kind of my key insight, that by doing things like flying with the right angles, we can produce data sets that are every bit as good as the ones produced by the $25,000 drone. It's just, it takes more time, but our communities have the time. The youth in our priority countries are often underemployed and could use the work. So instead of expensive Swiss consultants, I want local people with cheaper drones doing less square kilometers per day, but making money, gaining experience, and taking local ownership of that data and work. What do you think? Who's with me?
I'm with you. And you should also, I think you should come to Uganda and teach us how to do that,
All right, then. Okay, so I mean, here's the deal. Go ahead.
I have a question, Ivan. So you mentioned that you gave some drones to some places, but with our country, like bringing in drones is quite expensive, and the taxes related to it, and it's like I don't know if I should say illegal, something like that. Like there's a lot of procedure to go through in order to like get a drone delivered here in Uganda. So how are you coming about such situation, especially in if you've in those countries that you have shared sent drones to?
Well, Uganda specifically, actually, I don't think I would send a drone. I wouldn't need to. Why? Because the Office of the Prime Minister has dozens of drones. There are lots of drones already in Uganda with government agencies that would love to work with us. They don't know how to use them. So, the first move that I would make in Uganda, and you should talk with Deo about this, is to, yeah, Ralph, I've seen that as well. The coordinated drones. I don't think we need that just yet because we got lots of people that are underemployed that could fly this. But it is interesting that the sort of coordinated fleet style data acquisition. But sorry, yeah, in Uganda, the first thing I would do is just approach the agencies. Look, if we're working with the UNHCR or the World Bank or the Ministry of Lands of Uganda, first of all, they have this kind of equipment and they don't have the skill and the expertise and the knowledge or the software to use it. We can help them, so we can work together with them. And the second thing is, yeah, these permissions are complicated, but they're not impossible. And one of the things that I would like to do is to try to collectivize that difficulty. So you remember how I said that instead of one consultant flying for 10 days, we should have 15 people with drones? Well, we can't have every one of those 15 people importing their own drone and going through the import procedure and trying to get the nonprofit exemption from the incoming taxes and trying to get the registration of the drone. We have to do it all together. So the way I would like to get these drone communities working is we get a contract from the World Bank to fly all of Kampala for $200,000, which is about a normal price if the World Bank pays consultants to do that. But the way we do it then is we hire local people. All of us together, we go to get the permission. So instead of each one individually having to get their permissions, we go together to the ministry with all the paperwork, and we as HOT can facilitate doing that, so that it's not the individual community members that are just left to their own devices. Does that mean we can do that everywhere? No. There are some countries, for example, South Africa, where the regulations are so strict, and I would actually say insane, that it's not worth it. We actually did a little drone job in South Africa after the floods in Durban. A local insurance company in South Africa said, we will give you $100,000 tomorrow to extend this work. And we had to turn them down. We had to refuse that money to do that useful work because the regulations around drone flying were just too onerous, and we just couldn't do it. So there are places where we won't be able to work. Fortunately, Uganda is not one of them. Uganda is not the easiest place, but it's not the hardest one either. The hardest one is South Africa, to the point where we just won't do it. Indonesia is the easiest one. When I went to Indonesia with my drone, they said, welcome to Indonesia. What are you here for? Oh, I'm going to fly some drones with the local community. Great. What kind of visa do you want? Can I have a tourist visa? Sure, no problem. What's in the box? The drone. Great. Which kind? Oh, it's a parrot. Fantastic. So, I mean, there are places where we're really welcome, and there are places where we're not. In the places where we're not, maybe we just have to work a little harder, and we have to, together do that advocacy for community drone work to be accepted. What do you think?
That is wonderful.
All right. So now I've got a jump cut here to OpenDroneMap. So basically, what is this? OpenDroneMap is a software. It was originally written by a really great friend of mine named Steve Mather. When I said that I have servers in Cleveland, that's because that's where the founder of OpenDroneMap, Steve, lives, and he's my friend. And we have these servers together. It's mostly maintained now by a fellow named Piero Tuffanin. So Steve founded it, and there's a guy who's basically turned that into a great open source project, and he maintains odm.com, where you can actually get your, there's an instance of OpenDroneMap on the internet that you can get a subscription for. It's fairly inexpensive. But Steve and I run our own servers, and of course, most of the people that we would work with in the communities, like Ulysses in Latin America, he just runs it on his personal computer. In Tanzania, we have a couple of the our partner organization, Open Map Development Tanzania, has a server, or at least a powerful computer that they can do processing on. There's a local partner called Uhuru Labs that has a very powerful server that we can do processing on. But OpenDroneMap is a software that essentially takes a bunch of photos from a drone, or even from camera, you can just take your cell phone and you can take a bunch of pictures of things, and it won't make a very good reconstruction, but you can actually, get something from it. But if you put a drone in the air, you use a software like I use Pix4D Capture, which is a cell phone-based software to create the flight plans for my drone. I put it up in the air, I fly this grid, I get the photographs back, and then here in this software, I can add a project. Okay, I'm just going to take this project that I did for OpenStreetMap Peru as an example. I push select images and GCP, meaning ground control points. I'm not doing that at the moment. I would go into my data where I have a bunch of pictures from my drone. Here's a bunch of photographs. I'll show you what those actually look like. If I go into my, let's see here, documents, maps, Bali, here, raster, ODM, unprocessed. There we go. Talagawaja, images, boom. All right. Can you see that? That's actually the area that I showed you. These are the original photos from the drone. You can see that these are the ones that are looking straight down. If I move to a different place in here, no, those are still looking straight down. There we go. Here's some photos that are looking at an angle now. Can you see that? So I take all these photographs, I feed them into, this dialog box. I go open, and then it says, okay, here's 1,566 files selected. I would call it test for data interns. It shows me that there's 4 jobs in the queue right now, so it wouldn't actually start processing right now because this server is very busy working on the stuff for Kenya. I would edit the options. I would, and the main options that I would usually do are I want the digital surface model and the digital terrain model, i.e. I want those digital elevation models that help people calculate where water would flow. I would change the point cloud quality to high, and I would push save. Boom. Okay. And now I hit review. I hit start processing, which I'm not actually going to do at this point. I'm going to cancel because I don't want to start running something else on the software. And that's going to give me something processing. Just canceling that. Yes, I'm going to cancel. Okay, but now if I move back to what I'm actually doing here, let's go over to UNHCR Kakuma. And this is the job that's actually underway. Now we can see that I've got a bunch of jobs actually processing right now. Here I have a little button which is task output. If I put that to on and I give that a moment, it'll tell me what it's actually doing. Okay, what's it doing? It's actually going through all of these photographs and extracting features from them. If you're interested at some point, perhaps during the all staff, if some of you are around, or in a future webinar, I can explain a little bit more about how the mechanics of this work. But basically, it's going through every photograph, looking for specific features, bright points, dark points, corners, points, making a catalog of those features and then comparing it to every single other photo to look for ones that are the same. And when it finds ones that are the same, okay, that's how this photo fits together. And it eventually takes all of those photos and stitches them together. It's like sewing together a quilt into one perfect photo. And then it also regenerates, as I said, all of this 3D data. Now, once I do that, so this one right now, this is not done yet. All of these are still processing. But if I move over to, let's look at the project in Brazil, which is this one's finished. So now, this one, you can see that what the job there says is done. That one's finished. Now what I can do is here I can view it. Let's view the map because that loads more quickly than the 3D model. Boom, here I am in a village in Brazil that is flood prone. And this is the community that we gave the 3 small drones to so that they could do this work. And so here here is their very flood prone village along the banks of this river. And not only have we created an orthophoto, but here's it should load in a moment. Here's the digital terrain model. Can you see that? That's the elevation. And so from that, we can figure out when that river floods, which houses are going to be at risk, which helps them decide, where they have to build earthworks, where they have to maybe even move houses, but mostly, how can they protect themselves from the flooding? I'm not sure this is going to work just based on how big it is. If I hit the 3D button, we'll see how long it takes. I might actually be able to see the actual 3D reconstruction of this village. I'll leave that to process for a moment, go back to the dashboard here. And the next thing I can do is download the data. And then I can send that to, oops, not that one. Here we go, San Francisco, yeah. Notice this button here, share to OAM, share to OpenDroneMap. If I go through that process, I won't show you right now because that's a big upload, but if I do that, then the data goes to OpenDroneMap, and then you can use it in JAWSM. You can set up a tasking manager task and people can digitize from it. Imagine if we were digitizing always from something this great, something this high resolution. And I have this download assets button where I can pick the orthophoto, the terrain model, the point cloud, the textured model. The textured model, by the way, is that thing that I showed you here, this 3D reconstruction that you can open in some kinds of software, or the all assets. If I push that all assets button, then I get the everything together in a big zip file. Okay, so that's a bit of an introduction to the world of drones. For those of you who might actually be interested in helping me process the 2.5 terabytes, many tens of, I think there's over 100,000 images that we've collected from northern Kenya. It's not a lot of work necessarily to process, but it's a lot of time. Somebody has to be checking when it started, how it's going, if a job crashed, if it's done, make sure that it gets uploaded. So it would be very helpful if 1 or 2 people from your team maybe wanted to allocate a couple of hours a week for the next couple of weeks to help me babysit the processing for this job. In exchange for that, I'll give you some training on how to actually do OpenDroneMap and a little bit more learnings. But basically, it just involves taking this data that our team in Kenya has gathered and running it through this software. And it's a whole lot of just organization, making sure that we know which one's done, which one's not done yet, which is processed, which is good quality, which has been verified, which one has been properly downloaded and backed up and all of that. So hopefully somebody who's good with organization and spreadsheets. I'm not that good at organization. I'm pretty good at technical stuff, but I'm not necessarily the world's best person at being super organized. Okay, we have hit time. In fact, we're 1 minute over time. Apologies for that. I'm done. If there's any super urgent burning questions, please ask them, but otherwise in another 40 seconds, farewell, and thank you for joining us.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ivan. Thank you so much for coming back to train us again. It was really an awesome training. Thank you, everyone. And yeah, have a great day. I'll share the recording as soon as it is processed. Bye, everyone. Bye, Ivan.
Thank you.